Would I advise a survivor to speak their truth out in public? Only if you have a support system. Only if you're willing to never be seen or perceived the same. Only if you have a safety net to fall back on. Only if you are in a secure position financially, emotionally, and mentally. Only if you want your life to look completely different after you speak up. Hello people, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Janice Iche, and I am a survivor of sexual abuse in the Kenyan music and art industry. In this video, I'm giving you the facts about speaking out about your abuse publicly. So stay tuned until the end of this video as I also share safer alternatives to speaking out that will set you well onto your healing journey. So in February of 2020, I released a statement that took me about 3 or 4 months to write, exposing a culture of abuse that I found myself at the center of. See, I was raped by a producer that worked with a lot of your favorite Kenyan artists. It's a long story that almost ended my life, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. The statement I released changed my life for the worse. See, the reason I released that statement was the simple fact that I could not continue to enable my own rapist by staying silent about him like everyone else who knew about him before me did. I had already lost so much of myself and my overall health at that point. I felt damned if I did, damned if I didn't. So I chose one. So if you asked me today if I would advise a survivor to do the same, here's what I would say. I would take the time to write out everything that happened. This part was particularly very therapeutic for me, but putting it out, not really. What I would advise you as a survivor is to find a community that can support you and walk with you through your healing. Basically, prioritize your healing. And if you need to speak out in order to heal, I would advise you to be prepared to lose everything, including yourself, as you have known yourself. Like for me, because I did not have a support system, I had to speak out to begin my healing journey, but I had no warning of how things would go. Most times, if you already have a support system in place, you do not need to speak out like that. For me, one of the reasons I spoke out was an attempt to find my support through that process of exposure, but actually it ended up pushing everyone who knew me away from me. Until today, I'm not sure what this was all about, but I do not regret it. I just was not ready to become an outsider and outlier of society like I did. So this is one major reasons why survivors feel the need to speak out on their abuse. It is because we are lacking support and we feel like that kind of exposure will bring us closer to the people who will help us. Sadly, this could not be farther away from the truth. Like for me, it exposed me to people who ridiculed me, used that opportunity to put me down, and others who simply wanted to exploit me and my story. And the people who wanted to help could not understand the entirety or the severity of the situation. It was shallow help that couldn't and didn't get me anywhere. In fact, it only caused me more harm. I was even approached by therapists who only wanted to use my story for their accolades and not to really help me, and this also ended up causing me more harm. At that time, it was mostly strangers and people I didn't know well enough to trust that ended up reaching out to me, mostly via email. And today, no one reaches out at all, and frankly, I'm not sure I would be receptive to them either. There is basically a lot of isolation that comes with speaking out because people no longer want to be associated with you because they cannot empathize with what you have been through. And you know, trauma is an experience that truly takes us out of the human experience. So it is understandable that only those who have been through the same or similar can actually empathize with us. It was really tough. And there's more unpredictable outcomes that can come from this. So honestly, I would not advise you as a survivor to speak out on your trauma unless you truly have a secure support system and a financial safety net to fall back on. Unless you are sure you have nothing more to lose than what you have already lost from the trauma. The truth is, You need a lot of support, safety, and security to speak out on abuse. And a lot of victims and survivors actually do not have this. I'm talking people who can back you up and hold you with so much care and grace. I'm talking money, savings you can use to cushion your life when you fall out of work, because this is another consequence of speaking out about your abuse. It is a fact that people like employers, investors, and partners no longer trust you because they view you as a liability. For me, the rape did not change me as much as what happened after I spoke out about the rape. That's where the trauma really compounded for me. After the rape, I was still me, but I could sense that there was something wrong with me, like my soul was not at peace. And I spoke out thinking that it would give me peace, but this is what took the trauma to the next level. Speaking out is what truly erased me as a person. Okay, it's not the speaking out in itself, but the abandonment from everyone I knew that came after I spoke out. The total disregard, dismissal, the anger that the people I cared about directed towards me. I still don't have adequate words to describe and express what I really went through after speaking out about my trauma. The lack of support. It was the abandonment from people I thought would stand up against rape culture with me or just stand with me as a friend. All those people I used to know and who knew me. People who had said they loved me. There were some people who had even encouraged me to speak out, but when I did, they were nowhere to be found, silent. It's like they couldn't believe I actually went ahead and did it. Until today, a lot of the people that I knew have never reached out to me to empathize or acknowledge me for everything I went through during that time and offer support or anything, and that's just wild for me to comprehend. I couldn't comprehend the level of abandonment that I went through, and this is what truly made me lose my mind. I was really forced to grieve everything I went through completely alone and without support. I actually lost my mind for months, and I had to get on psychiatric medication to get myself back. There was always that question in the back of my mind, like, how come I didn't deserve their support like that? How come they didn't come through for me and give me support like I needed? But since then, I have truly learned how to turn that question inward, to making sure that I am giving myself the care that I need and being wary and avoiding people who cannot extend a certain level of care towards me. I think it's worse that the person I was dating at the time and even my family couldn't look at me when I told them about it. It's like, who else could? I still don't have words to encapsulate what that experience was like. These words are barely enough. So would I advise a survivor to speak out? Again, you need to be very, very secured, or else figure out another path to your healing. I believe there's always another path. Like, you can move out of that environment, find a new job, find a new group of friends, anything to maintain a sense of privacy for yourself, but you are still implementing change towards your healing. So the areas I would focus on to change. Number one, start with yourself. Like for me, I had to acknowledge the role that I played in my own trauma. I don't blame myself because I didn't know better at the time. I didn't know my worth and value, and I allowed people who clearly didn't care about me into my heart. This is the mistake that I made. You can read the full story of how my assault happened, and you will see that I was basically seeing someone who had no regard for me. But to me, I truly loved this person, and I was basically begging for their love, care, and attention. How I've changed today is that I do not beg for anyone's love. If you're not already giving it to me, I know that you're about to play with me, and I'm not playing with anyone. I prioritize myself, and I make sure that I'm giving all the love and softness to myself. Number two was changing my environment. It was tough. I actually did not want to move out of Nairobi, but I had gotten into a relationship in late 2019, early 2020, that I believed its sole purpose was for my partner at that time to convince me to move back home to Mombasa. She could not take care of me, and I needed so much care that she practically begged me to move back home. Plus, there was a reason of safety. I had to prioritize my safety before publishing that statement, and I understood that it would be safer for me to publish that statement while I was already out of the city, and so that's what I did. I waited until I got back home to Mombasa to publish the story, and that relationship that I was in ended as soon as I moved back home. But I truly believe that I would have not been able to begin my healing journey if I had stayed in Nairobi. So if you can change your environment, I highly recommend this because it removes you from that community that is now associated with your trauma and creates the space for you to find a new community that can embrace and honor this new version of you that is beginning your healing journey. Same goes for work environment. If you can change your job, ask for a transfer or something like that, anything to get you out of the norm. The third thing is to begin implementing healthy routines. I'm talking exercising, moving your body and eating well, journaling, doing things that make you and your body feel good. The depression might get so real for you like it did for me that you completely forget who you are. You need to have systems in place that will remind you of who you are when you need it. Like for me, I stopped singing and making music after I published the statement, but I would get glimpses here and there that I should be singing. So I started the process of self-producing my debut album, and I did this with the intention that by the time I would be done with working on this album, I would be a changed person, meaning I would have overcome all the trauma. I used that process of producing my album to basically save me and bring me back to myself. It can be anything for you. Figure out what makes you feel alive and the most like yourself, and hold on very tightly to that. And I promise you won't need to go public if you have these support systems in place. Your healing is happening because you are steering the wheel to your own recovery, and eventually you will thrive and blossom into the person who would never find themselves in such a traumatic situation ever again. Now, there are many nuances to this, but I'm talking particularly about sexual abuse that happens because we are allowing people to walk all over us, not situations like war and whatnot. Raise your self-worth, and no one will ever be able to succeed in abusing their power over you again. I think I will do another video about how to heal and raise your self-worth after sexual abuse, so let me know in the comments if you're interested in that. Okay, I love you all so much, and thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss new videos from me. I'm wishing you a wonderful first month of the year. I'm so excited for 2024, and I'll catch you in my next video.